Well, there's got to be a listing, honey. I pay him 6 G's a month in premium. What's that even mean, huh? China is here? I gotta go, man. Hey guys, Mandy Fraker here again to talk to you about movies. Everybody was clamoring to me for another video, so I figured I'd give you all what you want. That's actually not what's happening, but if you subscribe, then more people will come to me for movies and there'll be more movies. So like I said, hit the subscribe button and there's a little bell icon that you can tap. That'll give you notifications for new videos. So I'm here to talk to you today about this, VHS. Ever since the 1920s, America, or ever since the innovation of the silent film era, America has been clamoring to see more movies. We've always wanted to be entertained. From like Shakespeare and plays to vaudeville, silent film era, concerts, all that kind of stuff. We've always wanted nothing but to be entertained. Above all else, even up there with food and oxygen, we need to be entertained. So, in the early 1970s, Sony came out with something called Betamax and a VCR, video cassette recorder. Now, in the early 70s, this was initially meant for like news stations and stuff like that to record their shows. And that was it. Nobody, no regular average working man could afford something like this. In the mid-70s, the technology got furthered, and you had something called the Betamax player. It was really, or also called a VCR. It was a really complicated, big, clunky thing that was very hard to use for the average working person and very expensive. And what it was invented for was so that when you're out at work or you want to watch another show, you could record your favorite show, like Columbo or Kojak, as the times, were at that time. So that's what it was for. It was so that you could record things, later, just like this. Somebody couldn't watch Heather, so we recorded it on a Scotch tape. Not recently, of course. So you have that, and then in the late, and it could only hold 60 minutes of tape, but it was really good quality, really good sound, and it was great. But so then, there was some infighting in Japan, and so JVC, the Japanese Victor Company, came out with something called VHS, Video Home System. It's a very similar concept, except it was cheaper to make, cheaper for somebody like you and me to buy, and it could hold 2 hours of tape. So this is what started what's called the format wars, where, Beta came out, okay, well, we could do 2.5 hours, and then VHS, like, we could do 3 hours, and the more things that happened, eventually they got to something where it was like 9 hours, and then, Betamax had 10.5 hours, but VHS had 10, and the farther Betamax went, the worse off they were. Another thing that buried Betamax was a guy recorded Columbo and Kojak, and the guy who owned the rights to that actually sued the guy who recorded it, just because it was copyright infringement. It was, so you had that. And in 1975, a guy in Germany had a big collection of Super 8 films, and he wanted to share his collection with his friends, and that was one of the first known video stores. Later, in the late 70s, on Wilshire Boulevard, there was a place where this guy opened it, and he leased 50 titles from this video production company, and was able to basically rent and distribute these titles to anybody who wanted to come and pay for it. And so it took it from something that you can do to record your favorite show if you weren't home or if you weren't able to catch it, to actually watching pre-recorded films. And VHS got really big, and you can go to the video store and rent something like RoboCop. Some of my fondest memories as a kid is going to the video store with my dad and my sister and my brother and picking things out, and I'd float around in the back to the horror section, and I wasn't allowed to rent any of those. But I always wanted to, and I eventually ended up buying a lot of them now that I collect things and have money because I have a job, because I'm not a kid anymore. And in these video rental stores, you get a membership card like Blockbuster Video. Eventually Blockbuster Video, Hollywood Video, West Coast Video, they all got spawned from that. So that was really cool, and as time went by, people tried to come out with their own versions of things. So they came out with the laser disc. So problem with this, aside from the fact that it's huge and was expensive at the time, is that the player that you played on wouldn't record anything. And so they lost a lot of market share and a lot of ground right there, the fact that they couldn't record anything. So that just fizzled out, not long after that. And then not long after that, you have the DVD. Yeah, I remember when these came out, there wasn't very many of them at Blockbuster where I worked at. But they were there. I don't think anybody thought it would last very long, but eventually there was more of these than there were of those. And they still do make VHS cassettes, like Grindhouse puts out Make Them Die Slowly, and I think I Spit on Your Grave on VHS now. Just to bring it back, I think Disney may still have some titles, but they stopped making VCRs a few years ago, and you know, what started as a 15,000 store thing going up to 50 or 60,000 locations of video stores ended up going to, I think the last known Blockbuster is in Bend, Oregon. There was also one in Alaska, but nobody really cares about that anymore. Between, you know, Redbox and now being, you know, and Netflix started out as something where you would basically get DVD in the mail in a little envelope, and you'd watch it and you send it back and trade it for something else. And now it's Netflix like we know, downloading things and streaming TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And then you have, you know, Redbox, and then as a last-ditch effort, Blockbuster Video came out with like a DVD rental box, and those aren't around anymore. And the more technology goes by, the worse things get. The better things you get too, but really the worse things you get for us, you know, people who are sentimental. But VHS is still alive in a lot of ways. There's a place called VHSPS. And what they do is they take VHS movies like Cat's Eye, it's a really good Stephen King one, or Possession, and they take the artwork from the front of the VHS box and convert the VHS to the DVD, much like people are doing at these copy centers and video centers where you're, you know, converting your home movies to a DVD. They're still doing that and keeping VHS alive, but the pulse on that is really, 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 really low. That was my fondest memory. My best job was working at Blockbuster Video, man, checking out tapes. I loved being in there, the smell, the feel. It was something to look forward to every Friday night or every Saturday night, going there and rent a couple movies and get a bag of popcorn and a soda and do the everyday average American thing, man, watching movies. I still watch movies to this day. I love them with all my heart. And just like a doctor, you know, he wants to know how the body works, and he's in love with the inner workings of your body and your organs, so he becomes a doctor. You know, I fell in love with movies, so I became a nerd. I actually work at a bank. I don't do any movie stuff, except this. But like I said, I'm Mandy Fraker, and this video was about the Betamax. And if you like these videos, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a good day.